But they were really nice. They, as soon as they saw me, they were welcoming and everything. They were not mean to me at all. And so the second day, um I was looking around and I was really thinking, and once again, so she told me that she ordered me a new bed. She gave me some spray for the drain, and said that I needed to spray the spray down the drain, that it would kill the bug and that it would unclog the drain because nobody had been there for 2 months before me. And then she just told me, like she ordered me a bed or whatever, that it'll be better. And so I was like, well, she's trying to make it work. So surely, I can stay here and try to make it work too. So I went home or back to my apartment. I sprayed the spray into the drain that night, into both of the drains, and I waited. And so um I Skyped Sugar Cookie, and I was like, well, stay on the phone with me because her lover, he kind of has a shower in his hometown like that. And so I was asking her like what to do, because she told me like if you push, they had like this little auto penalog thing. You're supposed to press a button for the hot water. It was a thing. So she pressed the buttons. My boss had pressed the buttons earlier that day, so everything should have been set up and working and ready to go. So I put my friend on like this little shower rack thing behind me, like to hold the towels, and she tells me how to turn the water on and everything. And so I turn the water on, and literally the water is shooting out of the overhead, like the shower head, and it gets onto the floor. And I had bought myself water shoes that day. I went out to the store with my mom and dad, and on Skype with them, and I navigated through the store as if it was an American store. It was quite easy actually. And so anyways, the shower floor fills up with water, cold, ice cold water, and I am tapping puddles with my shower shoes into the floor. And I was like, no, I'm coming home. That was kind of my final straw. And then I was like, oh well, I just met these kids and I don't really want to leave the kids, like I hate leaving them. I hate feeling like I failed my students, because they are why I do it. Even, at my last job, the hardest thing about leaving was me leaving my kids, because I grow attached to them, like those are my babies. And so the next day I went to work when I was debating about coming home or whatever, and she springs it on me. She's like, you have a private tutor lesson one-on-one with this little girl named Eugene. And it made me mad how she was naming the kids, okay? Because she gave a lot of my females male names. Eugene, a baby girl should not be called Eugene, okay? Just no. And so I was tutoring the girl. We were working through her book or whatever, but I noticed she had sections in the book where she would have to translate from English to Korean or from Korean to English. And I'm like, why am I in charge of this? Y'all know I don't know Korean. How am I supposed to help her? Because if I was trying to translate things out with her and say like what I thought it meant, but I'm like, it's a disservice to her, because if this is not truly what the word or the sentence is saying, then we're both screwed here, and that's gonna fall back on me because I was in charge of teaching her. And I was like, this is just not what my contract said. Nothing about this, nothing about the environment did I like, I wanted to go over there and educate them in my own ways, and they told me that I could, but I had to use I had to go by their system. It wasn't that I couldn't do whatever I wanted to do. They had a system, and I had to teach everything in those books, and it was just hard because, like I said, getting them engaged was a different thing, and even if it was easy because we were just repeating things, it wasn't fun. Like, I know I can do this in my sleep, but it wasn't fun. It just felt like another job. And that's how I knew then, through all my praying and soul searching and everything that happened, that just was not for me. And so I told my mom, I was like, I'm ready to come home. That's it. I'm ready to come home. So she had to help me get the ticket. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. So now I'm about to talk about the Lord and how awesome he is. So yes, I did get to teach for 2 days. Let me just pin that there. But when I first got there, I prayed, and I remember the next morning when I woke up, I was crying, and I had started just speaking in tongues, and I remember as soon as I got through getting that out of my system, my pastor had texted me, and was just telling me, you know, to be gracious on myself and to give myself the same grace that I would give other people, you know, and to do what was best for my mental health. And so I talked to my mom, and you know, I didn't want to feel like I was giving up on this, because I had asked God for it, you know, like this was my moment to shine. But it just seemed like the more that I went through there in that short amount of time, the more I realized that that couldn't have been from God. He would not have sent me from the comfort of my home to a dirty, wore down, raggedy apartment, you know. And I had a day where I got up and my lower back hurt so bad that I just cried because I could barely walk, you know. And I didn't want my mom seeing me like that, because I knew it was stressing her out more, you know. And even my close friends, if I told them about what was going on, the two who checked on me, you know, they didn't like it either. One of them would just Skype me. She didn't want to get off the phone with me because I felt like she was worried about me, you know. And though I loved it, I realized that it just, no, that was not for me. And so when I made the decision to come home, you know, the night before I had this dream, or either it was the night before or 2 nights before that, I had a dream where I was laying on the little mattress and there were angels around me, and God was standing the furthest apart of all the other angels, and all of them were like looking around the room and away from me. And the Lord told me, don't worry about it. I'm going to protect you, you know, like you will not be harmed. And as I opened my eyes, I saw this shadow slide up the wall, and I was like, I don't like that, you know, because it was pitch black in the room, you know. But I do believe that he told me a lot of things, revealed a lot of things to me. One thing he revealed to me that I won't necessarily talk about until I get the bigger blessing, because I know it's on the way. But you know, he just, like I said, revealed a lot of things to me, and I feel like the Lord gives us common sense, you know. And so I was talking to my mom, I'm like, I want to come home, and she had to help me get the plane ticket, because for whatever reason, I could not book the ticket in Suncheon. They were telling me like my destination, something about like my destination, I couldn't book the ticket from where I was at. Like I would have to change locations, and I thought that that was really weird. So I was like, Mama, please, you know, just do this for me. And like, even when I talked to my birth dad that night, I was telling him like, Daddy, I'm trying to, you know, find out how to get an Uber home, because I'm going to post a picture of the map, but I literally had to pin where I was staying at. And because there were 3 apartment complexes, you really had to zoom in and know where your address was. So I had to put where my address was, then use 2 fingers to swipe my phone over across like this river and these roads. I had to read roads and like read up roads and, you know, stretch out and zoom in places to find the bus station, because the bus station was not listed on Uber. And so I was like, well, if this place that I'm marking for the bus station is not it, I'm going to have to carry these bags, you know. And that was a big stress too, because had I not found an Uber or a taxi, I would have had to walk 14 plus minutes with all my luggage across these streets, mind you, to get to the bus station. And so I told my dad, I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I know I'm going to figure it out, you know. And I just felt like there was no room for doubt in God, because I was by myself and I needed him, truly needed him. Like there was no rooms for ifs, ands, and buts or maybes. There was no questioning his power or glory. I had to know who my father was, and I had to stand on that firm foundation, you know. And that's something I feel like he's been working with me over the course of the months, is just knowing him and trusting and believing that he can and will do exceedingly abundantly for a girl like me. You know, I am special enough for him to show his hand. And so I figured out that pretty much I couldn't get the Uber to the next morning. So my mom was like, well, I got the ticket, you know, the plane ticket, and we'll just go from there. So when I woke up at 8. I really didn't sleep. I tried to sleep. I was tossing and turning because I was just anxious to come home. I felt like I was doing the greatest escape. And so I got up, and thankfully I saw where the Ubers were moving around, and I was able to get one, but it said that it would take him 4 minutes to get to me. So I'm like, crap, you know, I had packed up everything, but Now I have to lug these 2 heavy suitcases and my duffel bag. Like, I have to lug all that down these 4 flights of stairs and get to this driver before 4 minutes gets up. And so I would take down all my bags at 1 flight at a time. I would do the heaviest suitcase, then the smaller 2, then the heaviest suitcase and the smaller 2, and I wanted to like roll them down the stairs, but I didn't want a wheel to break or something like that. So I was just muscling it out with these guns and getting everything out. I could hear the driver blowing for me as I'm trying to walk out the door. And I lost the 1 suitcase. I had to hurry up and punch a code in, get the suitcase. And so I'm flagging him down, telling him, wait for me. And he's like, no, I'm supposed to be at this building. And I'm like, no, sir, I called you. I need to escape. It's me. And so I opened up this app, Google Translate, and I typed in, I need to get to the Suncheon bus terminal. And so he's like, okay. And then he's like, he's still convinced that it's this apartment. So I'm like, I was giving up, but I'm like, okay, I'll just find another way, And so as I'm walking off, he calls out to me. He's telling me like, come on, and he puts the address in for the bus terminal. So I load in my stuff. He helps me load in my stuff, and I get in the back seat. And that was like my first breath of relief, because I have just escaped this bad apartment, which was even funnier because she wanted to take me that day to the Korean embassy to get registered, to get my visa registered, and to also get like a health check, other things that, you have to do in order to be abroad. And so I get in a taxi, he gets me to the bus terminal, and I'm just looking, at everybody who lives in Suncheon, and my heart starts to break because I see my elders, sitting on the pavement selling fruit. All of them are selling fruit and vegetables and trying to make a living. And those things are just sad to me, because Lord forbid anybody ever tell my grandma she has to do something like that, at her age. I can't even fathom the fact that they have to do that for a living. It was just sad, And so he got me to the bus station. He got me to the bus station, and I knew it was the correct place because it said it on the GPS. And because I was also worried, like, what if this man charges me or tries to, he doesn't do right by me. I was really worried about that, but he did do right by me. So I got there to Suncheon or whatever, and I'm gonna break here because it is already long. But so when I got to the bus station, I had to get the ticket to get the bus, and that was a stress because I didn't have a card, because they have these little card readers, like an IC card that you have to put in. And I'm like, oh Lord, like, I know you're with me. Please show me what to do. And so this lady, she's like, miss, this is for cash. She shows me where the cash is, takes me over there. So I get the bus ticket. I get it to the terminal that I needed, to go. I get it for the time that I need. And I go, I get the snack. And what I've realized about Korean people is that people always say that they're mean or they don't speak to you. That's not true at all. You may have to make the first move, but if you try to speak to them, they will speak back to you. Even in the stores I went into, even when I was in Suncheon, if I bowed my head or showed respect to them, if I did my best to say the few basic words that I knew, they would smile and talk back to me. Like, I was sitting down Skyping my mom one night, or on the phone with her, and this older woman walks up with this cute little Pomeranian dog, and I'm like, oh, like, I just gushed because I love animals. He was so beautiful. And she brings the dog to me and lets me pet the dog. Like, I saw an older couple walk in, and they smiled at me, they treated me with respect. Everybody did, and so I guess the highlight of my testimony, or the story that touched me the most out of this experience, was there was a gentleman, and I got up from my seat to walk around and see what buses were there, because I knew, I needed to watch out for wherever my bus may pull up. And I couldn't really, it was getting close to time, and I was getting a little nervous because I was like, I really can't miss this bus. Like, I have to, like, that was a have to. And so I was a little stretched because I had to be on that bus. And so this guy walks over, and he has crutches, and he's limping a little bit, and he comes straight up to me, and he's motioning around for the buses. So I'm showing him my bus ticket, and he reads the letters because it has Korean and English. Hold on. I wanted to show y'all what I was talking about. So here, if you see, because yes, I did keep mine, it shows you like where you need to go. So I was in Suncheon. I needed to get to Incheon for my flight. And so he read this and he knew, where I was supposed to go. So he was like, okay, he nodded his head or whatever. And he walked off and I was kind of looking at him because I was like, well, am I supposed to follow you or were you just curious? But then he comes back and he's like, come on. And he's making sure that I'm walking and following him with all of my luggage. And I'm like, I'm coming. And so he walks me to this area completely opposite to where I was. And he stops and he motions and he's like, right here, and he's showing me the people behind me. And he's like telling me we're all going to go together. You're going to get on the bus. He's showing me where the bus is going to come. And he takes his crutch and he smacks it against the screen so that I can see and know that my bus is indeed going to Incheon. And so, I was like, okay, I'm going to stay right here. And I was bound. I was like, come samnida. I was just so overjoyed and grateful that this guy who didn't even know me, and it made me think about that passage in the Bible where he talks about like the lame and the poor, and truly he can use anybody. But the fact that it was somebody on crutches limping around, who got me to where I needed to be, it just made me feel some type of way. Because I knew that had to be God, it was nobody but him. And so the guy, he gets on the bus with his wife and they take off and he looks and makes sure that I'm still sitting there, and when we make eye contact, I smile and, bow again. And so my bus comes up like 5 minutes later and it was to Incheon. So I put my things on there and the driver was trying to tell me how to stand it up straight. I can't remember the exact word he was using, but so I stood it up straight and he was like, okay, and so there was a couple helping me. Like if guys saw me struggle, they would try to help because the suitcases were heavy. And so when I got on the bus, I remember thinking, these seats are nice. And the seat I had was way in the back. And so I'm going to post a picture, but I was laying down on the bus, just looking around, enjoying life. Like that, those were the moments that I wanted to go to Korea for. Those experiences, just trying new things, seeing new things, being able to explore new things. So the bus ride to the airport was like the funnest part of my trip by far. Seeing the mountains, seeing they have like white and red balls that hang over different parts of the country. And I found that that's for the airplanes. Like if they go down or something, they'll know like what region they're in. And I find stuff like that fascinating, and I was telling my mom and my cousin, and even my, my best friends, that I would see visions in the clouds, like cities, like mountains. And I would think to myself, but I don't think the cities could be in those mountains because it just looked like a bunch of snow and clouds. But truly, when I was coming through Korea, that's what it looked like. Like the mountains shrouded over the city, and then down within those mountains, that's where they had their livelihood, And so I rode the bus for about 5 hours to Incheon. Then when I got to the terminal, it was the wrong terminal. So I didn't know that till I went inside, and I was asking her like, okay, well, I need to get home, like I don't know where to check in. I don't see my flight. And she's like, oh, well, you need to go to terminal 2. But if you go outside, there's a shuttle bus to the second terminal. So when the shuttle bus pulls up the first 2 times, I am looking and thinking, how am I going to get these heavy suitcases onto those terminal buses? Because they don't have compartments underneath where you can put your luggage. You have to carry them on the shuttle bus. And so finally, the third time, it took a bus 12 minutes to get to me each time. So I'm like, Lord, I cannot let this next bus pass me up. Like I have to get on this bus, give me the strength, because I need to be at the airport at least 2 hours before to check in, and do what I need to do. Just so happens this white gentleman walks up to me and he's like, do you need help putting your luggage on the bus? And I'm like, please, that would be a great help. And I'm like, I'm gonna warn you, this luggage is heavy, but let's do this thing. And so he lugs up my bags and everything. And when I get on the shuttle bus, they have these little hanger things that you have to pull on to stay in place. So I had to hold my bags with one hand and hold this black levy pulley thing with the other and ride the shuttle bus like that. And at first it was scary because I thought I was gonna face plant at least 5 times. But after I found my footing and those curves, you had to really, and it was straight and narrow. I had fun. I felt like, again, I was on a roller coaster. Like, it was the time of my life. And so I was just looking over and seeing like the water and different sceneries and stuff. And it was about a 20-minute ride. And so when I got to the airport, the guy was like, well, he helped me put my bags off or whatever. And I was telling my friends it was just the funniest experience because I struggle with self-conscious issues. And so there was these 3 guys behind me, and I had never really heard anybody talk about like Americans or things about us in general, but I heard one of them go, I know my rights, and they were talking about this girl named Michelle, and I was like, okay. But they scrambled off the bus to like just get in front of me, and so the guy helps me get my stuff off or whatever, and I'm mean mugging them. But so I get my stuff into the airport, and he's like, well, do you know where you're going now? Like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm great. I got this from here. And so I get in, I check in, they tell me what to do, and honestly, guys, that was like my first breath of relief. After that, I was able to just breathe easy. I just felt like I was okay after that. I didn't feel like she could get to me or nothing. And my grandma and them, they were all like, I think you should wait to tell her, that you're going home, that you shouldn't even say anything because you don't know what these people are up to. But and I understand what they were saying, because she was the only one who said it. And so I checked in, I went to the bathroom, did all that unnecessary stuff, and then I ate pho. And I was so happy to eat food that I knew about because I wasn't really eating. I would eat bites of something, but then my stomach would turn, and I think it would be the smell of the room or just like my feelings weren't there. And like I said, I drank a lot of water, so I wasn't really getting nearly as much water in Korea. And so my body was just on a revolt. And so I drank the soup. I, had some soda or whatever. And I remember there was this table across from me, and these guys were sitting there. And there was this one guy, he just had the biggest grin on his face. He was just watching me. They were Korean, and he was eating. And I was like, we're vibing. Yeah, this is my comfort now, And so I got on the plane, got through to Minneapolis again, got through customs, and TSA people, they're just weird, but got through customs, got checked out or whatever, and then I got on the plane to Dallas, and I came back home, and I just felt such a relief, knowing that my father brought me home to my family. At first, I will say throughout this whole trip, I did feel like a disappointment. I felt like I had let everybody down, and in a sense I felt like I had let God down. Like, I'm 26, I've been trying to find my career and stabilize a career, and get a job and build up money, and all these other stuff that people have told me how I should be planning my life. I've been trying to prove those points, and I just see now I don't have a point to prove to anybody but God, and I told my mom when I first left, I did feel like I was a burden. I kept thinking like, well, now that I'm leaving, she gets to do this, or they get to have this, or they get to have that. Like, I'm not around to throw a wrench in their plans anymore. But at the same time, I was also very, very excited to go to Korea because that had always been my dream. But the promise was, if he unlocked the steps, I would go. And truly, he gave me everything I wanted because I did get to experience teaching abroad. It was for 2 days, but I got to teach abroad, and he brought me home. And I was joking with my mom, and I told him I just felt like I was on a world tour. I went and saw the world, and I came back home. And like I said, I felt disappointed. I felt kicked down, but now I realize just how special this trip was for me. And I reached out to the travel bud and I let them know why I came home. And this is what I take issue with here. And another reason why I really wanted to post a video, because Shannon made it seem like it was my fault that I did not reach out or communicate my needs. But I did. I expressed what I needed. And then I showed her the video that I posted here. I showed her that. And still it was a me problem, not what they could have did better. And it was like, well, we're sorry you feel this way, but I don't like that. If you're going to apologize, just own what you did and apologize to me and be done with it. You know, don't try to sugarcoat it or throw blame on somebody else or say, well, this wasn't our fault, but we're sorry. Because yes, it's your fault too. You are part of the problem, you know. And like I say, I just, in general, I wanted to make this video because I wanted to encourage people to, one, always chase your dreams. You know, always chase your dreams. And even now I've realized some dreams that I've wanted to chase, that I've ran from, trying to build this perfect life as a successful teacher, you know. And so always chase them, no matter how crazy or weird they are. You know, you decide how you want to write your own life. Pray about it and ask God, of course. But if you have a great standing with him and you know that he's told you something, then act on that. You know, have faith in him, have faith in yourself, you know. And I would also say, don't compromise yourself for anybody else. If you're uncomfortable with something, or if it's something that's not benefiting you or bettering you, then get out of that situation. Because I could have stayed there and struggled for a year, but what would I have gained from that? I was unhappy. You know, I was falling back into depression. They weren't treating me right, really, you know. And then the biggest thing that I forgot to say was, another thing that kind of made me ready to come home was this lady that I was working with. She had given me a hug earlier in the day, which I was surprised about because I was told that they don't like hugging people. You know, Koreans don't like hugging people, but we hugged and we were talking and she was sweet. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's because she's in an English academy, like, you know, and she's older. She's 36, so she's not like younger society or, you know, too much of the older generation. But so we were sitting down at my desk talking and she goes, you have pretty brown eyes. And she's like, they're so big and they're so pretty and I just want to take them out. I just want to scoop them. And I was just like, that is not a great compliment. Like, it is, but it is not. And she was telling me that Julia, my boss, thought that I was so pretty when we first interviewed and that my eyes were so pretty. And so, and on one hand, it made me feel like, well, then did I just get hired because I was a pretty black girl? Because if that's the case, I'm in the wrong profession, okay? I need to be a model because that's where I could put my talents to use, not teaching these kids, you know? And so that also kind of, just like I say, and who knows her intentions behind saying those things, it just made me feel a little weirded out. And I feel like God does give you discernment to like kind of know where to set your boundaries at, you know. And I think the biggest takeaway I got from this whole experience is, like I said, if you have a dream, chase it to the best of your abilities, because I got to do what I said I wanted to do. You know, a girl like me. Now, I will say I'm from Jasper, Texas, a small racist town with a lot of bad history, you know, and I've always felt overlooked in school and things like that, and just with other journeys that I'll talk about probably on my channel in another time. But to see God use a girl like me and take me from such a small town to such a big place, another land, you know, I was a day ahead over there, and I really did enjoy the culture. I did not enjoy my apartment, but there were beautiful sights outside of the apartment, like in the city, on the rooftop when we were playing the games with the kids, seeing the mountains and everything like that. I really loved it. I loved walking through the city at, you know, the evening when the leaves were falling and the wind was blowing, you know. It was just a beautiful place and a beautiful experience. And so I do plan on going back. No, not for teaching or anything like that, but just to, you know, experience that life again. But I will say please be also careful when you do go through third party agencies and stuff, because I think that that's where I realized too that really people just do things for money and to benefit them. You know, about I spent alone $1,800 enrolling for a program, and I had to pay like a deposit fee before that. I think like $300 or something like that. I had to pay to even get accepted into the school. So having to get accepted into the travel bud program, then paying $1,800, then having to get money here and there for the flights, you know, for my documentations that was like $60 and $70, sending stuff to Korea that was like $70, you know. And then even when I sent my documents to Korea, they had got lost. And they're like, well, can you tell us when you sent it off and stuff? And I'm like, how is this my problem when it's in y'all's country and you know what I know? Like, you have the shipping, you see what I see. So what can I say or do that's going to make this situation any better than you going to talk to your post office about it? So, you know, just really, really be careful with who you invest in, and you know, put your best interest in, because like I say, I feel like the team did not handle my case well at all. And then to blame me or to back the school up when you saw yourself how the videos were, it was just a little bit crushing, you know. And then even my advisor, like I say, her name was Kim, and I thought we had a great rapport. You know, she was always so sweet and kind to me. So when we Skyped, I would always ask her, just be honest and real with me, you know, tell me what I'm walking into. And they want to make it seem like Korea was a culture shock for me, in which it could have been, but that's not what it was. Suncheon is in poverty. That's what it looked like, you know. I know what poverty looks like. We see it in America all the time, but don't make it seem like it's a culture shock when that's not what it is. Because like I say, the people was not mean to me, you know. Nobody ever made me feel like I didn't belong. I would say out of like the handful of hundreds or so people that I met, it was one lady who kind of was like, but she was an older lady, so I was just like, goodbye. But you know, it wasn't that. It was the apartment. It was my living conditions. That's why I chose to come home, because I was living in a place where it was not a healthy environment. I mean, water stains on the wall, mold in the air, you know, like water damage, you know, turn it over to see a stain in my face while I'm sleeping. I shouldn't have to live like that. Clutter on the floor, you know. And the teacher before me, wherever she was at, you know, she had hauled out 2 months before, and then this guy Miller was replacing her until I came. But Travel Bud and Hands on Korea wants to make it seem like they just had teachers who stayed there their whole life, and I don't believe that, not for one bit, you know. And so even when Kim reached back out to me, and I will post what she said so you can pause and read it, and then what I said, you know, because I always want to come from a place of being humble, you know. And if I say that I am a Christian and that I represent Jesus, like I want my interactions with people to always show that, you know, to always show my best side, my humbleness, my meekness, my kindness, even when I don't feel that they are deserving. And quite honestly, I did not want to be as nice as I was, but I know it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I don't want to play the blame game, I guess, so much. It happened, you know, and I'm just ready to move on with my life and pick up the pieces, you know. But I do fault them, like I say, because they could have done so many things different or better, you know. And I find it really funny that my old boss could have gotten me a new bed, but she was not willing to give me another room. That's a little fishy to me, because if you have that much pull to give me a new bed, how come you don't have enough pull to give me just a new room with a working bathroom light and hot water? Because no person should ever have to say that they take showers in the sink, you know. And so that is my story about how I went to Korea and came back. You know, it was like a week or so journey there and back. I stayed there for about a week. I got there on a Thursday, I believe, not even a week, because I was coming home that following Wednesday, because I was just like, it's not happening, you know. But I got to teach that Monday and Tuesday. I did get to see a little bit of the sites, and like I said, I kept little monuments, and I kept the cash from there, my one. I'm not gonna show it, I'm not gonna be that person, but I do have some money for, you know, when I go back and visit and just go explore for another reason instead of teaching. But yes, thank you for watching my video. And like I say, please be careful when you trust in people, because not everybody has your best intentions in heart, and people will disappoint you, especially when money's involved and if they can make their program look great. Because I was supposed to be blogging about the perks of Travel Bud and everything about being a great teacher, because they told me that they would promote it. Well, Kim told me she would promote it, but now I'm doing the exact opposite, because you guys know what you did, and it's not fair for you to play with people's emotions or lives and then string them out to dry. You know, I paid money for people to be there with me, to help me along the way. Nobody reached out until that Monday to even see if I was alive or breathing. But the day that I didn't respond to the director or anything like that, they were blowing up my phone, but nobody reached out to my emergency contact. And it wasn't until I got this final message yesterday where she was like, I'm going to reach out to your contact for my peace of mind. Where was the peace of mind last week when I was coming home? It just, you know, 2 + 2 is equaling 5 right now, not 4. And I'm not understanding it. But, you know, if this is your first time on my channel, I do have one other video about cosplaying, because that's what I'm getting into now, so you can stick around for that. If not, please chase your dreams and always be your most authentic self. Please don't ever let people tell you what you can't do, because like I told her in the email, I am a Black woman who managed to get back from South Korea with nothing but the grace of my Heavenly Father, and nobody can ever take that victory away from him or me. So please be blessed, and please remember that your feelings are always valid. Your dreams are always valid. So just chase them and enjoy your life. But thank you for listening to my story. Hopefully I said something that could encourage somebody, you know. And like I say, it was such a long video that I had to break up into 2 parts, but I do feel like it's worth it to share my experience, so hopefully somebody else can be saved, or somebody else can make, you know, just wiser decisions. And I'm not saying that every company is bad or anything like that. Just please be cautious, you know. And reading reviews do not make you crazy, because now I will be researching everything to a T. But thank you guys so much. I hope you have a blessed week, a blessed evening, and remember just to keep your heads up and always be you. Goodbye.